That's the part that makes it sting so specifically. You didn't grab something generic off a shelf 3 days before. You remembered something they said 8 months ago in a car, almost under their breath, the kind of thing people say when they're not performing, when they're just being honest for a second. You held on to it, quietly, you went out of your way, you wrapped it, you felt good about this one, and then you watched their face. And something in you, something you don't quite have a word for, quietly broke, not dramatically, no scene. Just this small, clean fracture somewhere in the chest. Because they smiled the right smile, they said the right words, and they meant absolutely none of it. And you could tell because you know them, and knowing them is apparently the whole problem. This video is about those people, the ones who can't receive. The ones who hand your love back to you, not meanly, not intentionally, but consistently, reliably, in ways that accumulate over time into something that starts to feel like rejection, even though you know, intellectually, it isn't. It isn't, but it feels like it, and that feeling is real, and it deserves to be said out loud. Let's talk about what's actually happening. You know this person, maybe you are this person. You give them something, and before the wrapping paper has fully hit the floor, they're already planning their countermove. Not because they're calculating or cold, but because they are physiologically incapable of sitting inside the experience of receiving without immediately converting it into something they owe you. The gift lasts approximately 4 seconds before it becomes an obligation, and here's what that does to the giver over time. You stop giving. Not because you're petty, because the ritual has become exhausting. Every gift you offer launches a cycle of reciprocal anxiety in them that circles back to you as tension, as overcompensation, as a vague awkwardness that sits between you for weeks afterward. You learn, eventually, that your generosity costs them something, and so you start withholding it, not to punish them, to protect them, or maybe to protect yourself from watching your warmth turn into their burden in real time. The psychology here is specific. This is a nervous system that learned very early that things given freely don't exist. That care is currency, that generosity is a precursor to demand, usually because it was. Usually because there was someone, a parent, a dynamic, a whole household where that was simply the law. Kindness had an invoice. Love was a setup. So they carry that law into every relationship they've ever had, including yours, including the one where you are genuinely, uncomplainingly giving. They cannot feel the difference between you and the person who taught them the law, not because they're broken, because the body doesn't distinguish between old danger and new safety. The body just knows debt is coming, get ahead of it. What breaks your heart once you understand this is that their compulsive giving, the way they always show up for you, always reciprocate, always overdeliver, that isn't generosity. That's anxiety wearing generosity's clothing. They're not giving because it feels good, they're giving to stay safe. There's a specific kind of hell in this one. You've been in it if you've loved someone like this. You're in a group, it's their birthday, everyone is watching, the gift is opened. And the person you know, the one who is funny and warm and alive in private, vacates their own body in real time. What's left is a pleasant enough shell performing a simulation of gratitude that fools everyone in the room except you. Later alone, you ask, "Did you actually like it?" And they come back to life. "Yes, I really did. I'm sorry about earlier, and they trail off, and you finish the sentence in your head. You just couldn't feel it when people were watching. This is what makes it so quietly devastating for the giver. You only get the real response when the moment is over, when the audience is gone, when there's no pressure and no witnesses. Which means every shared celebration, every birthday, every Christmas morning, every just because gift given in front of others lands in a register that's completely inaccessible to them. You keep trying to love them publicly and they can only receive it in private. The psychology is this: for people with high evaluation apprehension, the technical term for what's really just the fear of being watched while being real, genuine emotion under observation becomes inaccessible. Not performed poorly, genuinely cut off. The internal experience and the external expression disconnect completely in the presence of an audience. They feel something, they just cannot get to it with people watching. And the cruelest part is that they know. They're watching themselves go blank and they hate it, and there's nothing they can do about it in the moment, and they can see your face falling and they can't stop any of it from happening. It costs them too. That's what nobody tells the givers. The performance isn't comfortable for the performer. This one is the most brutal. I want you to stay with it. There's a person, high-functioning, capable, probably someone people describe as driven, who lives in a permanent state of not yet. Not yet done enough, not yet good enough. Not yet the finished version of themselves that has earned the right to receive anything without it feeling fraudulent. You give them something and they smile and say thank you, and the gift goes somewhere, a drawer, a closet, eventually gone, and you never quite understand why it didn't seem to land. But here's what was happening inside them while they held your gift. This is for someone I'm not yet, not a conscious thought. A feeling, a pervasive, bone-deep sense that care is something you earn through complete becoming. And they're not complete yet. They're still in process, still rough. The gift arrived for a version of them that doesn't exist yet, and accepting it feels like fraud. This is the psychology of people who are, on the surface, the least obviously wounded. They look fine. They're functioning. They're usually over-functioning, actually, because the engine that says you haven't done enough runs constantly, and the only way to quiet it temporarily is to do more. The gift disrupts the engine. The gift says you're already enough right now as you are. And that is, to this person, a genuinely destabilizing thing to hear. Because if they're already enough, what's been driving them? What was all that effort for? What happens to the story they've been telling themselves to stay in motion? For the giver, this one is the loneliest. Because you keep showing them in every way you know that you see them and love what you see. And they keep looking past your hand towards some future version of themselves that might finally be allowed to believe you. You cannot convince them. Conviction isn't the issue. The issue is that they made a deal with themselves long ago and they intend to honor it. You're just going to have to love them while they do. This is the one that will make you feel the most helpless if you've been here. You give them something beautiful, something real, and instead of warmth or even that recognizable flinch, what you get is a kind of withdrawal. They go a little quiet, a little distant. They say thank you, and there's something in the thank you that sounds almost sad, and you don't understand why your gift produced something in them that looks like grief. Here's why. For people running on anxious attachment, and this is an enormous number of people walking around functioning fine, loving people, building lives, tenderness doesn't arrive alone. It arrives with its shadow. The shadow is, this can be taken away. The more real and warm and specific the gift, the more real and warm and specific the relationship it represents. And the more real the relationship, the more catastrophic its potential loss. So they hold your gift, and somewhere underneath the moment, their nervous system is already rehearsing your absence. Not consciously, not dramatically, just quietly calculating how much this would hurt to lose. And the number comes back too high, higher than they're comfortable with, higher than feels survivable, so they pull back just a fraction, just enough to bring the risk back to a manageable level. The pulling back is not rejection. It is, and I want you to hear this clearly, it is they trying to survive loving you. It is the only tool they have for keeping the feeling from becoming too large to hold. And what it costs you is the full moment. They can't be entirely in it with you. There's always a part of them standing slightly outside, keeping watch, managing the exposure. Over the years, that partial presence adds up to a kind of loneliness that's hard to explain. You're with someone who loves you, you can feel that they love you. And yet there's a glass wall you can't quite get through, and every time you try, every birthday, every holiday, every I saw this and thought of you, the glass is still there. That's nothing, that loneliness is real, and you're allowed to name it. If you're the giver, if you've been quietly absorbing the deflections and the flinches and the slightly wrong smiles for years, I want you to hear something. Your instinct to give was not wrong. Your love is not too much, and the fact that it kept getting handed back is not a verdict on its value. It is a verdict on something that happened to them long before you arrived, something they've been managing ever since with the best tools they had available, which were not always good tools. You can grieve the moments you didn't get to share. You're allowed to, You can hold both things at once, that their pattern has a history that isn't about you and that the impact on you is real. These aren't in contradiction, they're both true. And if you're the one who flinches, if you recognized yourself in more than one of these, I'm not asking you to perform gratitude you don't feel or fake a warmth you can't access in the moment. I'm asking you to consider quietly what it costs the people who love you when their love keeps landing in a space you can't quite let it reach. Not to punish yourself, just to see it, maybe for the first time, because they're still there. Still trying, still wrapping things carefully, still remembering what you said in the car 8 months ago, still hoping this is the time the moment lands the way they meant it. That's nothing either. Which of these felt like a bruise when you touched it? That's the one worth sitting with.